You ever feel like you're just going through the motions at work? Chasing the numbers, hitting the targets, but kind of losing the why behind it all? Well, what if I told you the answer to that very modern problem isn't in some new age business book, but in a philosophical guide from almost 300 years ago? Yeah, let's dig into how a seriously old text might just hold the key. I know. It's a pretty bold question, right? But today, we're diving into this incredible piece of Japanese philosophy that suggests the secrets to ethical capitalism and finding real dignity in our jobs have been hiding in plain sight for centuries. So this ancient wisdom comes from a book called Tohi Mondo, which means City and Country Dialogues. It was written way back in 1739 by a guy named Ishida Baigon, who was a commoner turned philosopher. And get this, his book argued for the total fusion of business and ethics, long before that was a trendy corporate buzzword. Now, to really get why this book was so mind-blowing, we have to travel back in time to 18th century Japan. It was, believe it or not, a time of peace, but it was also super rigid, with a social hierarchy that created this deep crisis for one particular group of people. Okay, so society was carved up into these four strict classes. You had the samurai rulers right at the top, of course, but way down at the very bottom were the merchants. And this was despite the fact they were getting incredibly rich. And this is where you get this huge contradiction. Economically, the merchants were crushing it, often making more money than the samurai. But socially, they were treated like dirt. The official ideology basically called them parasites, which you can imagine led to this massive, widespread inferiority complex. So, into this crazy world walks our hero, Ishida Baigan. And he wasn't some elite scholar sitting in an ivory tower. No, he was a farmer's son who worked as a merchant's apprentice until he was 45 years old. He was basically a late-blooming corporate drone who lived and breathed the tough realities of business every single day. And this was the question that just haunted him his entire life. He saw the good that merchants were doing, how they connected people and made customers happy. He just could not square that with the shame that society was dumping on his profession. And that question, well, it became the fuel for his entire philosophical journey. So at age 45, he quits his job and develops his very own school of thought. He called it Shingaku, which you can translate as heart learning. And it was a philosophy built for the everyday person, designed to answer that big question and give them back their dignity. Bacon's philosophy was built on three ideas that were just completely radical for his time. First, business and ethics aren't two different things, they're one and the same. Second, universal human equality. Every job has equal value. And third, truth doesn't just come from the top down, it comes from open, honest debate. I mean, think about it. We talk about purpose-driven management and ESG like they're brand new ideas. This guy was preaching it 300 years ago. He said, yeah, profit is essential. It's like nutrition for a business. But profit you get by cheating people? That's not profit, that's theft. For him, morality didn't get in the way of profit. It was the only way to guarantee success in the long run. And just listen to this. In a society literally built on a rigid class system, Bacon comes out and says everyone's job is just a different function, but our value as human beings is completely equal. This was basically a declaration of human rights, affirming the dignity of every single worker, no matter their rank. Just incredible. He also completely reframed the whole purpose of what merchants do. Instead of seeing them as parasites sucking the life out of society, he used this brilliant metaphor. Commerce, he said, is the blood circulation of society. Merchants keep everything flowing, moving goods where they're needed, and keeping the entire social body alive and healthy. What a powerful idea. Now, of course, when you start dropping bombshells like this, you're going to attract some critics, the haters of his day. And the book Tohi Mondo is actually a record of his epic intellectual showdowns with them, where his philosophy really got put to the test. So picture this, a high and mighty government scholar, a real member of the privileged class, levels this absolutely brutal accusation at him. He calls merchants the world's greatest thieves, profiting without making a single thing, and says that preaching morality to them is a complete joke. But Bacon? Oh, he doesn't back down for a second. He comes right back at him with this incredible piece of logic, just masterfully turning the critic's own argument completely upside down. He basically says, okay, if our profit is thievery, then what about your salary? And boom, that was the checkmate. Baigan argued that a samurai gets a salary for their job, which is governing. Well, a merchant's job is circulating goods. So a merchant's profit isn't theft, it's their legitimate salary for doing essential work. Faced with that airtight logic, his critics had absolutely nothing to say. They were silenced. So what's the big takeaway here? This isn't just a cool history lesson. Bacon's philosophy didn't just stay in some dusty old book. It actually reshaped Japan and, believe it or not, holds some powerful lessons for all of us in the 21st century office. For the merchants back then, his words were nothing short of liberating. I mean, can you imagine? They could finally take pride in what they did for a living. And this new spirit of ethical work, it actually became the moral backbone for Japan's incredible economic growth in the centuries that followed. And just look at the problems we're struggling with today. This relentless focus on profit above all else, widespread burnout and nihilism, massive inequality, this feeling that our work is disconnected from any real social value. It's kind of wild how Bacon's philosophy offers a powerful, centuries-old cure for each and every one of these modern ailments. His two big virtues were honesty and frugality, but not in the way you might think. Honesty wasn't just don't lie. It was about creating sincere, win-win relationships. And frugality wasn't about being a cheapskate. It meant wisely investing your resources for the good of the whole society, not just hoarding them for yourself. I mean, that is the very heart of modern sustainability right there. And if you take away just one thing, let it be this quote. It's his whole worldview in a nutshell. You absolutely need both. An economy without any morals is just criminal. But trying to be moral without a sound economic plan, that's just a daydream. They have to work together, hand in hand. So in the end, Bacon's 300-year-old philosophy leaves us with a really personal and very modern question. It's not just about what you do for a living, but why you do it. Is the work you're doing creating real value, or is it just creating profit? Is it truly serving the blood circulation of society? Something to think about.